Good morning, all of you. In this session, we are going to revise entire nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy. So NMR is the technique where lesser energy kind of transitions are possible, where radio frequency can be utilized in order to provide the signals. NMR spectroscopy is the useful tool for prediction of unknown compounds, and it is having vital role of applications apart from research even medicinal field, we are having wide range of applications for this NMR spectroscopy, right? NMR spectroscopy is applicable to predict three-dimensional structure of the compounds with hydrogen, boron, carbon 13, nitrogen 15, oxygen 17, fluorine, phosphorus. These are the elements are exhibiting NMR spectroscopy. The compulsory condition is I value should not become exactly is equal to 0. Angular momentum should not be is equal to 0. Then only molecule becomes NMR active. That's why proton, hydrogen, and these isotopes of the boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, phosphorus are exhibiting this NMR activity. Now we are going to study about proton NMR spectroscopy. So whenever proton is considered, nothing but nucleus is considered, we have two provisions: clockwise rotation and also anti-clockwise rotation. Clockwise rotation of proton is denoted with plus half sign, which is called alpha notation. And when anti-clockwise rotation is possible, that is denoted with minus half, called beta notation, right? So main principle laying in this NMR spectroscopy is NMR is the technical tool where electromagnetic radiation, when falls on the sample, especially radio frequency falls on the sample, there is a provision of nuclear proton flipping is possible, right? When external magnetic field is applied, that used to generate new induced magnetic field within the molecule, that is called secondary magnetic field, and even it is also known as induced magnetic field. Okay, we have two provisions. One is alignment with the field, otherwise alignment opposite with respect to the field is possible. Okay, so external internal magnetic field may be present in the same kind of alignment, otherwise opposite type of alignment may be present. And nucleus having the provision of clockwise rotation called alpha, anti-clockwise rotation called beta, right? Then NMR spectroscopy is very important to determine number of equivalent set of protons present in the compound rather than number of protons present. Okay, so it mainly depends upon type of equivalent protons present in the given compound. Okay, so magnetic field applied on that radio wave, different protons will have different regions on the delta scale for the absorption. Okay, all protons are not having equivalent nature. Based on their nature, so their absorption frequency will raise. So this is a fundamental thing which can be applied for NMR spectroscopy. Okay, so absorption for different protons will be different. That maybe depends upon aromatic nature, electronegative property, anisotropic effect which is present in the molecule. So many parameters will influence shifting of signals on delta scale. Okay, so here transition energy arises due to excitation of protons. When when protons are exciting from lower energy level to higher energy level, then what happens? Transition of energy is generated. That is well described in this diagram. Initially, proton is flipping in clockwise rotation by gaining E is equal to h nu of energy. So its direction is entirely changed. Clockwise now shifted to anti-clockwise. Ground state energy now excited to what next level, right? So during this, flipping of proton will be observed. Change in the direction is known as flipping of proton. This is given by the formula delta E is equal to gamma h b naught by 2 pi. Gamma is the gyromagnetic ratio. It is nothing but gyromagnetic ratio is nothing but it is the proportionality constant, nuclear constant. H is the Planck's constant, 6.0 6.023 into 10 to the power minus 34 is the Planck's constant value, right? And next is about B naught. B naught is nothing but how much strength we are applying from the external magnetic field. Okay, so that is nothing but B naught. So this is about the principle which involved in this nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy. Now let us see what are the selection rules. It is very important selection rule for NMR spectroscopy. In order to predict whether compound is NMR active or not, the important parameter is I value. I is called angular momentum of the nucleus. If I value is 0, that molecule is called NMR inactive. I value is non-zero, that may be half, that may be 3/2, that may be 1. Any one can be there other than 0. Now the compound becomes NMR active. Whenever hydrogen C13, F19, P31 were taken, I value is called half. Now the molecule is said to be NMR active. When we are taking carbon 12, it is the even atomic mass. When even atomic mass is there, I value becomes 0. Now the compound becomes NMR inactive. That will not give any signal in this NMR region. Okay. Delta M is equal to plus or minus 1. Okay. So this is nothing but magnetic momentum quantum number. So that magnetic momentum quantum number while excitation should be either plus or minus 1 should be there. So this is also important for NMR active compounds. Okay, so these are the transitions whichever possible within the molecule with M value given as 3/2. Here, while excitation, it is converted into minus 3/2. M value is plus 1/2. So after excitation, minus 1/2 will be there. So these are the parameters which are present in showing NMR activity by the given compound. The compulsory condition is for hydrogen C13F19, angular momentum quantum number value is half, 1/2. That's the reason why all these compounds are called NMR active compounds. Okay, so now let us discuss about instrumentation of NMR spectroscopy. How NMR spectroscopy is working, let us discuss. So this is the important diagram. So which used to describe the how signals will be arised when compound placed in NMR spectrophotometer, right? So in this, the device called external magnetic field, strong permanent external magnetic field will be taken, which is so some persons without their roll number they are joining, sorry. So along with your roll numbers only you are allowed to join into the class, because we are facing some problems, sorry for that, right? So magnets with the strong north pole and south pole will be inserted here. So when strong north and south poles are present, strong north and south poles are present, what happened? That used to give external magnetic field. External magnetic field is given here. Okay. So, and we are giving radio frequency also. The molecule is given with radio frequency also. That radio frequency is surrounding this central cuvette. This is called a cuvette. So that cuvette is used to give the compound, used to place the compound in this. This compound is perpendicularly irradiated with radio frequency and external magnetic field as well. Okay. Here we have Helmholtz coils which used to disperse this external magnetic field. Field will be dispersed around this cuvette where we are holding the sample, right? Whenever radio frequency and magnetic field both applied on the sample experiences flipping of protons. It involved in resonance and flipping of protons will be observed. Some extent of radio frequency will be observed and remaining will be emitted from this outlet. That light is emitted from this outlet. Now, so that signals coming out from this compound will be tracked by amplifier. This will enhance the signal strength. Okay. Now detector will be there in NMR spectrometer also. The detector will convert the signal of NMR radiation. NMR radiation signal is converted into a NMR radiation is converted into a signal. So that signal will be displayed on the recorder, which is nothing but computer monitor only, right? So this is about the flow chart for this NMR spectroscopy. Here you can observe what is the NMR spectrophotometer and how it is working, right? So here, initially we have the chamber where magnetic field will be generated. External magnetic field is generated in this large sized chamber. And the uh, uh, second chamber resides sample holder, where we can place the sample whose structure we want to elucidate, whose structure we want to deduce. That compound will be placed in this central chamber, right? And this is called workstation, where you can observe amplifier, detector, and also recorder will be there. The screen is displaying the signals correspond to the compound whatever we placed in this sample holder. So this is about the entire description of NMR spectrophotometer. Now, let us go with individual components whichever present in this NMR spectrophotometer. In this instrumentation, NMR radiation is provided by this radio signal generator. So this is the device which is called radio signal generator. So in order to get radio signals, we can adjust the knob. This is called a calibration. Okay, we may take either 50 or up to 500. So this radio frequency range, in order to predict, in order to deduce the structure of new compounds, that will be ranges from 50 to 500 megahertz frequency by using this radio generator. Okay, generally proton NMR will be recorded at 400 megahertz. C13 NMR will be recorded at 100 megahertz of this frequency. Okay, so this is about radiation source. Next is about sample holders. Sample holders in NMR spectrophotometer are made up of transparent glass vessels which are made up of borosilicate material, and these are narrow, long with 8.5 centimeters of length and 0.3 centimeters of diameter. So these are known as sample holders, where we can place the sample whose structure you want to determine, right? Next one is about solvent. In order to predict structure of unknown compound by NMR, that should be dissolved in the suitable solvent. So here protons will be replaced with deuterium, because proton, if present in the solvent, that also gives the peak and interfere with the compound structure. In order to avoid this ambiguity, what we are doing, we are taking deprotonated deuterium exchanged solvents, right? Chloroform is CdCl3, or deuterated water D2O, or deuterated DMSO D6. Any one can be employed. All three are not required at a time. Based on our requirement, based on solubility, you may choose any one of these solvent to dissolve the sample in this. Okay, take the compound and dissolve either of these three solvents, and that should be placed in this sample holder, right? Now we are applying magnetic coils. These are used to provide external magnetic field, and even permanent magnets also used with the north pole and the south pole division, and its magnetic field strength may be 60 to 100 megahertz. They are employed in order to generate external magnetic field. And next is about RF detector. This is the most important one, where signal analysis, signal generation is possible. RF detector stands for radio frequency detector, where we are taking coiled copper wire. Okay, so it is the coiled copper wire. This copper wire will used for the analysis of signal strength, signal clarity and structure of compounds can be determined mainly upon this RF detector only, right? And finally, we have recorder, where you can observe the signals of NMR spectrophotometer. Okay, so recorder will give the final output of our compound, at which place signals will be generated, what is the spectrum. Entire information is provided on this recorder. Okay, so this is about entire instrumentation of NMR spectrophotometer, where working is already be described in the conventional way. Just now we completed how it is working also. By this, instrumentation of NMR spectrophotometer completed. Now, let us discuss about number of signals in spectroscopy. How the compounds are giving signals. Okay, so whenever CH3CH2Cl was taken, this compound is considered as two carbon system, where CH2 protons are of one set called A set of protons. CH3 protons, methyl protons, are called B set of protons, right? So here A set and B set, two sets of protons are present in the ethyl chloride. Consequently, it will generate two signals in NMR spectrophotometer, right? Two signals will be appeared, right? So next is about CH3CH2CH2Cl. This is called the propyl chloride. Whenever propyl chloride was taken, here you can observe methylene, and another methyl. These three carbon hydrogens are present in different environment. No two are identical. Hence, we can say three hydrogens are said to be three sets. So, when this compound placed in NMR spectrophotometer, three different signals will be originated, right? And next is about another compound I am taking, dichloropropane. Okay, and first position chloro is there, even second carbon also having one proton. Okay, sir, one chloro. So it is 1 comma 2 dichloropropane. Whenever this compound was taken, it is considered as a three carbon system, where actually how many hydrogens are there? 3 plus 1, 4, 5, 6 hydrogens are there. But it able to provide 4 signals. Why 4 signals? We will see. This hydrogen surrounded with chloro. So it is of one type. The same carbon also having another hydrogen, but this hydrogen environment is different. One side hydrogen, another side chloro is there. This is opposite with respect to this one. So here two sides of chloro, here one side hydrogen, one side chloro. This is not at all similar with this one. Hence we can say this B proton is of another type. And on this second carbon, we have one more proton, and the last carbon having another type of protons. Hence, here you can observe 4 different type of protons in this compound. Hence, it able to give 4 signals rather than 3 signals. Okay. And the last compound is methyl cyclopropane. It is the cyclic system where methyl group is there. This is of one kind, hydrogen of another kind. These B protons, C protons are there. So it able to give signals of 4, not 3. It give 4 signals. Why 4 signals? I will describe why 4 signals. 3 signals is not correct one. 4 signals are possible because, let us see. Hope. Can you see the screen now?
Ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. So here you can see 4 signals in this compound. Here, this hydrogen present on this first carbon is said to be A type. Hydrogens 2 present at top position are of B type. Hydrogens present at bottom position are of C type. and here another methyl is there. This methyl is of another type. You can say it is the D type of proton. So here the possibility will be 4 rather than 3 signals. 4 signals will be arised for this cyclic compound, right? So you can experience 4 signals for the compounds. So 4 signals are appeared for this methyl cyclopropane. Okay. So this is about number of signals which are given for the given compound. Now let us move on to next topic, chemical shift. It is the most important, right? Number of signals are nothing but based on nature of hydrogens present in the compound. If 2 sets are there, we will get 2 set of signals in the compound. 3 sets are there, 3 signals will be appeared. 4 sets are there, 4 signals will be appeared, like this. Okay. So chemical shift stands for change in the position of signals on the delta scale, mainly based on the parameters called shielding and de-shielding. Okay, because of shielding and de-shielding, you can experience change in the position of signals. This phenomenon is known as chemical shift in NMR spectroscopy. Okay, so here, if you are having C, that will give particular position of the signal. Aldehyde, its signal will be around 10. Carboxylic acid, 12 will be there. Aliphatic hydrogens, if it is alkane type of hydrogen, 0.9 signal will be. Aromatic hydrogen signal lays in between 6 to 8 ppm. Amine signal is in the range of 3 to 5 ppm. Amide signal will be also possible in the different region. So ether will give characteristic signal, vinylic and also acetylenic. In this way, when we are changing the functional group or changing the nature of hydrogen, shifting of signals are possible. That kind of nature is called a chemical shift. The shift in the signals are mainly arised due to 2 parameters known as shielding and de-shielding, right? Here you can observe whenever external magnetic field, internal magnetic field, both are in opposite alignment. External, internal, both are in opposite alignment. That is known as shielding. Okay. So if 2 magnetic fields are not coinciding with each other, both are opposite with each other, is called a shielding kind of interaction. De-shielding stands for external magnetic field, induced magnetic field, both are in the inclined orientation, nothing but reinforced orientation. Now it is called a de-shielding effect. This is known as de-shielding effect, right? De-shielding effect stands for if external and internal magnetic field both are in reinforced alignment. That is called de-shielding, right? In this NMR spectroscopy, the important parameter is tetramethylsilane was taken as the reference compound. It is the internal standard in order to record the signals. Okay, so here basically it is possessing some kind of properties. Because of all these properties, it is said to be internal standard compound. The properties are low electronegativity of silicon. That's the reason why always it is showing shielding effect and upfield shift will be observed. Electronegativity of the silicon and its related compounds are extremely low. And second is its value is arbitrarily fixed as 0. Okay, so it is taken as the standard whose value is fixed as 0. That is any the reason. And third is whenever this TMS mixed with any kind of solvent, it readily mixes. So without any problem, insoluble or precipitation may not be possible, conveniently mixed with all kind of organic compounds. That's why it is used as a standard because of its a versatile, means a broad spectrum of solubility and volatile. So whenever it mixed with the compound, after recording the spectrum, just it when it kept in the open air, all the TMS will be volatile, hence it will be evaporated, left living compound as in a pure state. So because of all these merits, advantages, TMS was chosen as the internal standard compound. Now, let us discuss about what is meant by delta scale. In NMR spectroscopy, all the signals will be recorded on the scale called delta scale. It ranges from 0 to 12 ppm. Upfield stands for towards TMS. Towards 0 ppm value is called upfield shift. Towards 12 value is said to be a downfield shift on delta scale. Okay. In order to record the delta values, observed shift by what is the frequency we are operating the instrument. The ratio of these two was taken as the delta value. It is measured in ppm. This is the delta scale. Always at 0, we will get a single peak for internal standard TMS compound. Okay, so some of the compounds and their respective delta values are mentioned in this tabular form. Everybody know tetramethylsilane is chosen as the internal standard whose ppm value will be 0. Cyclopropane hydrogens will give the signal at 0.2. Methyl 0.9 almost is equal to, so 0 almost is equal to 1 ppm, right? Secondary aliphatic carbon having hydrogens will give signal at 1.3, right? So in this way, different functional groups having different their characteristic signals. Based on the signal range, you can identify which compound it is. Okay, so here a typical spectrum of ethyl alcohol is mentioned in this delta scale table, where you can observe CH3 CH2OH, means 3 set of protons are there. That's why it able to give 3 signals in the NMR spectrophotometer. Methyl protons will give signal at almost 1, and CH2 methylene protons will give in between 4 to 3. So OH proton is in the range of 4 to 5. So this is about the NMR spectral signal for ethanol, right? Now, what are the factors which influencing chemical shift values? So first factor is called electronegativity. As we are increasing electronegativity, signals will be shifted towards downfield, means towards 12. Okay, so delta values will be raised. Iodo being it is a lesser electronegative, whose shielding value will be more, and 2.16 ppm value will be observed. Bromo, it's slightly increased because electronegativity will be raised. As electronegativity rises, delta value also rises, right? The value shifted towards downfield. This is the influence of electronegativity. And next is about anisotropic effect. If molecule is placed in one direction, properties are of one kind. Molecule is placed in another direction, properties will be entirely changed. This is called anisotropic effect. By changing the direction, if properties are varied, that is called the anisotropic effect. When we are taking acetylene molecule, it is placed in the external magnetic field. What happens? So here inclination of external and internal magnetic field is possible, and they experience shielding effect. Means, so the two external internal magnetic field are not in the reinforced alignments, rather than they are in opposite alignment. Because of opposite alignment in the acetylene, they experience shielding effect. So signals will be appeared in the range of 2 to 3 ppm. Acetylene molecule always experience shielding effect, means opposite alignment will be there in between external and induced magnetic field. Whenever alkane molecule was taken and external magnetic field is applied, both are having reinforced alignment, both are having same kind of orientation. So because of same orientation, we will experience deshielding effect. Hence the reason why here 4.6 to 5.9 signal region will be there. For acetylene, 2 to 3 because of shielding. So for alkene molecule, it is placed horizontally and they experiencing deshielding effect and lays in between 4.6 to 5.9. Compared to this one, it will be downfield. This is purely explained by the factor called an isotropic effect. When we are changing the orientation, it's a what chemical shift values also changes. That is called uh, an isotropic effect. These are the factors which are influencing proton NMR spectroscopy chemical shift values. By this, chemical shift is completed. Now we are going to discuss about spin-spin coupling. It is an important parameter where spin multiplicity can be explained by the spin-spin coupling. Okay, so if we are taking two set of hydrogens, that will give two peaks. But peaks are not singlets, not single peaks. Instead, that signal will be splitted into multiple peaks due to the factor of spin-spin coupling. So when you see this ethyl chloride signal will be like this. Here you can observe one is signal of CH3, another is signal of CH2. Actually, two signals will be appeared here, one single peak, here one single peak should be given. But CH3 protons are giving 3 splitted peaks, CH2 protons are giving 4 splitted peaks. This is called peak multiplicity. This is known as peak multiplicity, means peaks are splitting into different signals. That is purely explained by the factor called spin-spin coupling. When we are applying high resolution, right, at that high resolution conditions, single peak can be subdivided into multiple peaks due to the reason of spin-spin coupling. Spin-spin coupling stands for peak multiplicity is mainly arised due to neighboring protons. Due to the effect of neighboring proton is known as spin-spin coupling. Okay, so number of splitted peaks mainly depends upon nature of that surrounding hydrogens. That is mainly called as spin-spin coupling. In order to predict number of peaks, we have to use the formula called n+1. N is the number which indicates number of protons which are present in the adjacent carbon. In order to predict the splitting of the signals on set A protons, we have to count the number of protons present on B carbon atom. So N stands for number of protons present on neighboring carbon, right? So in order to calculate peak multiplicity of A, what we have to take? N is equal to 3 we have to take, because neighboring protons are 3. That's why 3 plus 1 for A type of protons, how many peaks will be appeared? How many? 4 peaks will be appeared for this one. Okay, 4 peaks will be appeared. So this is known as peak multiplicity, right? And the second one, we have B set of protons. How many protons are there? 3 protons are there, right? So for B set of protons, we have to use the formula. The formula will be n+1 again. So n+1 will be there, means adjacent to carbon having 2 protons. 2 plus 1, it will become 3. It stands for triplet. Intensity ratio will be 1:1. So this will give the peak length. Here intensity ratio is taken as 1:2:1 in the sense first peak range is this much and second peak is up to this length and third peak is up to this length. This is the peak intensity ratio 1:2:1. 1:3:3:1 in the sense here first peak intensity will be like this, second peak 3, third peak is also 3, fourth peak is 1 again. So 1:3:3:1 will be represented like this. Okay. So 4 signals are called quartet for this A set of proton, and its intensity ratio will be 1:3:3:1 and 4 signals will be appeared like this. Okay. And CH3 proton, n+1 formula applied, triplet, 3 signals will be appeared and its peak will be represented as a triplet like this. Okay. This is the best example for spin-spin coupling, where splitting of signals mainly arise due to nature of neighboring protons. So here the formula is n plus 1. N should be adjacent to protons whichever present in its surrounding. Based on that, spin-spin coupling will be calculated, right? So next we are going to discuss about the topic called coupling constant. Coupling constant is nothing but whenever peak multiplicity is there, the distance between two adjacent peaks is called coupling constant J. So any two consecutive peak distance will be exactly same. So if the coupling constant value of this one is 6 ppm, 6 hertz, 6 megahertz, and here also it becomes 6 megahertz only. Means it will be constant. Whatever two adjacent peaks are present, that distance will be constant. That is given by coupling constant. Coupling constant is a very important parameter in order to calculate sp3 hybridization of the carbon. If carbon is in sp3 hybridization, 6 to 8 Hz value is given. If 6 to 8 Hz value is given for G, you can clearly understand that there is a carbon-carbon single bond. If J value is in the range of 6 to 8, carbon-carbon single bond, nothing but sp3 hybridization is there. If sp2 is there, double bond. sp is there, triple bond. sp3 is there, single bond, right? Identification of geometrical isomers. Whenever double bond is present, around the double bond, there is a possibility of cis or trans arrangement. If cis arrangement is there, J value will be lower. Trans arrangement is there, J value will be higher. So if high J value is there, you can easily understand it is the trans isomer. If J value is lower, you can understand that it is the cis isomer. Next, we can predict vicinal and geminal hydrogens. Vicinal hydrogen stands for if hydrogens are present on adjacent carbons called vicinal, on the same carbon called geminal. Always geminal hydrogens are having lower J value ranges from 0 to 5. Vicinal hydrogens are having 6 to 15 called vicinal hydrogens. In this way, you can identify the hydrogens are present on the same carbon or different carbon atoms based on its J value. And it is possible to predict ortho, meta and para hydrogens present in the given compound. If ortho hydrogens are there, J value will be 7 to 10. Meta hydrogens 2 to 3. Para hydrogens 0 to 1 value will be there. Based on this J value, you can understand in the aromatic compound, two protons relationship, ortho, meta, para. What kind of nature is there, you can easily predict. And by this, the concept called coupling constant was completed. Coupling constant stands for the distance between two adjacent peaks. Okay, so by using this value, we have some valuable information to understand sp3 hybridization of the carbon. Cis and trans isomers can be distinguished. Vicinal and geminal hydrogens are the meta para hydrogens also depicted by using this coupling constant J value, right? Now, we are going to discuss about what are the important applications of NMR spectroscopy, where we can apply this NMR spectroscopy. Nuclear magnetic resonance is very important for structural elucidation of the compound. Any lengthy or complex compound is given to you, you can conveniently predict, you can conveniently elucidate its structure by using NMR signals. It will give aromatic nature data, it will give olefinic carbons, it will give methyl carbons, it will give aldehyde, hydroxy, amine, cyclopropane. Whatever kind of skeletal structure is there, all can be conveniently predicted based on its delta scale value. So number of signals stands for number of set of protons. Aromatic, aliphatic, vinylic, olefinic, vicinal, geminal, everything can be predicted by using this NMR spectroscopy, right? So structural isomers. So position of the signal based on the position of the functional group, signals will be varied. So in this way, we can identify structural isomers also. How can we predict? If you are taking 1-chloropropane, 3 carbons having 3 set of protons, which are having different environment. This is CH2 surrounded with CH2 and Cl. This CH2 is surrounded with CH3 and CH2. This methyl surrounded with one side alkyl group is there. So 3 different sets will be there. So first compound will give 3 signals, whereas 2-chloromethane, 2-chloropropane when taken, 2-chloropropane when taken, what happens? The signals will be 2 rather than 3. The reason is for this why we are getting 2 signals means here these 2 methyl are having equal environment. These 2 methyl are said to be one set instead of 2 sets. So this will give one peak and CH proton will give another peak. So that 2-chloro will give only 2 signals, 1-chloro will give 3 signals, right? So in this way, structure of compound will be defined. Next, prediction of hydrogen bonding. If hydrogen bonding is there in the compound, signals will be moved towards downfield. Downfield shift will be experienced if hydrogen bonding is there in the given compound. This is about hydrogen bonding prediction. And next is about identification geometrical isomers. Based on J value, whether it is cis isomer or trans isomer can be conveniently identified. So it is possible to identify vicinal or geminal hydrogens, again based on J values. Next, ortho, meta, para type of hydrogens can be identified based on its J value range. Okay. So, and the most important application of NMR spectroscopy is prediction of aromatic nature. If the given compound is obeying Huckel rule or possessing any benzenoid molecules, now the signal obviously appeared in the range of 6 to 8. If we are taking benzene, all hydrogen identical. Hence, we will get only single peak in between 7 to 8. That is at 7.26. So, in this way, benzene and its related analogues will give the signals in the range of 6 to 8 ppm value. In this way, if signal is in between 6 to 8, you can identify the given compound is aromatic. If signal is not there in between, you can say it is a non-aromatic compound, right? And next is about detection of electronegativity. Based on the position of signal, you can identify electronegativity, more electronegative or less electronegative. If you're shifting the values to very downfield, you can identify the given compound is more electronegative. So fluorinated compound is having higher ppm value compared to iodinated compound. So in this way, you can predict whether the compound is electronegative or electropositive. If electropositivity is there, values are towards 0. Electronegativity is there, values are towards 12. Downfield will be there. Pharma applications. So in pharmaceutical industry, in the medicine synthesis, drugs, new compounds, new medicines can be investigated by NMR spectroscopy, and how extent the compound is pure and how much impurity is present in the compound can be predicted by NMR spectroscopy. And drug binding tendency of the compound can be analyzed. Structure of the compound is also predicted by using this NMR spectroscopy. Any new materials like polymers, dyes, any light property containing optical materials or ceramics synthesized, their structure also conveniently deduced by this NMR spectroscopy. And in biochemistry, enzymes, proteins, lipids, vitamins, hormones, all these functions and the structure elucidation is possible by this NMR spectroscopy. So biochemical applications also possible with this NMR. Medicinal, NMR spectroscopy possesses a wide range of applications. So among all the versatile applications be medicinal application, that is magnetic resonance imaging. MRI stands for by applying radio frequency, it is possible to identify the functioning of all body organs whichever present in human being. So that is medicinal diagnosis tool in order to predict, in order to distinguish diseased parts within the body. That is the medicinal application of NMR spectroscopy. Qualitative and quantitative analysis, right? Qualitative stands for without measuring the weight or volume. Quantitative means exact quantity or concentration measurement. Both kind of analysis is possible by using NMR spectroscopy. All these are the versatile applications. So these are few listed here, but there is a list is very lengthy, but we are not going to describe all the applications. A very few important applications are mentioned in this list. Okay. And the next is about detailed discussion about magnetic resonance imaging. It is also the part of NMR spectroscopy. It is the kind of application of NMR spectroscopy. Magnetic resonance imaging is the medicinal diagnostic tool where you can identify which part is diseased, what extent of disease is there, and how can we go for further treatment. That diagnosis, identification, prediction of diseased organs are possible by using this MRI scan. Okay, this MRI scan will give two-dimensional images of for body organs. So it is possible to record the entire body skeletal structure. Otherwise, a selective part is also examined by using MRI scan. We are applying magnetic field strength of 0.2 to 2 Tesla. So magnetic field should be in the range of this amount only. And we are applying radio waves. Because of lesser energy, they may not cause any kind of harmful effect in the human being, right? So a circular magnet will be taken in this. That circular magnet surrounding the patient, and another strong magnetic field is also present at the bottom of the patient on which patient is laying. So we are applying perpendicular radio frequency and external magnetic field both, right? So in this, when this magnetic field and radio frequency applied, water molecule present in the person will be aligned with that external magnetic field. That alignment may depends upon their own nature. So based on that, with reference to standard MRI scan report, they will analyze whether it is properly functioning or not, right? So water molecules containing hydrogens will be responded towards this MRI scanning. Whenever MRI scanning is carried, the patient is not allowed to carry any kind of metal devices, because we are applying magnetic field. There is a what happens, so attractions can be generated, and there is a fluctuation of magnetic field what we are applying, and magnet whichever, that means any metal rods or any metal equipments which are associated with that person. So if any person got injured, if he is given assistance with the metal rod for giving bone strength, in that case it is not applied for MRI scanning. Whenever person is handling any kind of metal ornaments, in that case also this MRI scan is not applicable, because so there is a fluctuation in the signals whenever we are carrying any metal kind of ornaments or any other equipments whichever present. That's why before going for MRI scanning only, the patient should be completely removed with whatever metallic objects or magnetized objects whichever present with him only. So the organs whichever present in the whole body can be diagnosed by using this MRI scanning method. And the most important advantage is it is highly advanced when compared to X-ray analysis, CT scan analysis, ultrasound analysis also. And even for repeated exposure to radio waves, they may not induce any kind of harmful impact. And after this alignment with water molecules, that will be signals will be reached to receiver coil. Receiver coil will take the signals and they are used to analyze what kind of changes observed. So what is the function of that particular organism, that particular organ present in the human being, that will be entirely analyzed by this receiving coil only. Now signals transported to gradient coil. Gradient coil will encode whatever signals are obtained, so that signals will be converted into readable one. So coding, encoding, decoding, that kind of things are possible by using these gradient coils, right? So now it will be converted into a signal which appeared on the screen. Now radiologist is able to read all the signals and what is the function of that particular organ can be analyzed. So this is about the sequential arrangement of MRI scanning, where we are applying the external magnetic field and even radio frequency also employed. MRI scanning is used to diagnose heart functioning, entire human body organs, liver functioning, kidney, spleen, pancreas, adrenaline gland working tendency also analyzed by using MRI. Whether any tumor generated in the body, even it is the infinitesimal, small one, can be identified. The tumor cell identification means cancer saline identification is also possible by an MRI scanning, right? So in case of cardiovascular imaging, whenever heart pumping is there, any blocks are there. So if angioplasty is required, what is the function of heart, how efficient it is pumping the blood, all this can be analyzed by MRI scan. So in neurology, it used to find out the diseases like epilepsy, or the patient who are suffering with loss of consciousness, dementia, loss of memory. So this is mainly because of what neurological problems. Neurons will be there, though neurons are generating impulses. Those impulses, if frequently generated and frequently communicated in the proper way, are not. So based on that, if any deviation in that, you may experience such neurological problems. Even Parkinson also another neurological kind of disease. They can be diagnosed by using this MRI scanning. Muscular skeletal applications. So spinal imaging. So any fracture, any fractures are there in the spinal structure. So any soft tissue damage is there, any bone curving or damage or deformations in the bones are there, that analysis you can carry by using MRI. Even so, digestive system, how gastrointestinal tract is working, how efficiently enzymes are released and other gastric juices released, and how effectively digestion process carried can be analyzed by this MRI, right? So, and pancreas working, which used to give insulin, which used to regulate body glucose levels. So that pancreas working tendency, pancreas gland working tendency, liver. So this liver means liver functioning is also analyzed by using this. If any deformation in the liver, liver cirrhosis is nothing but enlargement of liver. So in that case, its functioning will be decreased. So that analysis also possible by MRI. Any inflammations are nothing but any particular part got injured, what happens, swelling and with reddishness with lot of pain will be appeared, those are called inflammations. So what kind of inflammations, why that kind of inflammations are appeared, how extent severe it is, can be diagnosed by using MRI. And ulcers are nothing but any wounds or any rupture in the sensitive tissue. So because of uneven food timings, and also so excessive secretion of hydrochloric acid in the stomach, that may causes wounds in the stomach, those are called ulcers. Those also predicted by using this MRI scanning. Brain functioning, so brain is the combination of so many neurons and a lot of complicated structure will be there. How it is functioning, and any small tumors are present in that, any clots are there, blood clots are there, everything can be conveniently analyzed by this MRI scanning. Any injuries, fractures, infant growth. So during what pregnancy time, what is the growth of body organisms of that infant child, that analysis also carried by using this MRI scanning method. So in this way it will be more efficient. It is about entire revision of NMR spectroscopy. It's a principle, instrumentation, spin coupling, and next is about coupling constant J. What else we discussed? What is meant by delta scale, and what are the imperative applications of NMR spectroscopy, and the magnetic medicinal application of an NMR, that is MRI. All these are discussed in today's session.